The teaching we're going to begin with, the title of it is The American Nightmare, the Wheat and the Tears. The American Nightmare, the Wheat and the Tears. Now, to begin this, we have to understand a couple of things. What is the American nightmare? Can anyone express to me your understanding? What is the American nightmare?
The American nightmare. There's so many things you could use for it, but what I'm going to make sure, the American nightmare, when you dream, you have a nightmare. Slavery is America's nightmare.
Slavery is definitely the nightmare in one sense, but let's see if we can give it a focal point. The so-called American Indians, the so-called American Latinos, and the children who were kidnapped from their own country and brought to America for free labor. Those children and the heirs and descendants are those who make up the American nightmare, because no matter what America does, America can never wash its hand clean from it. Every country in Europe has taken part in the American nightmare. Now, many of them try to exonerate themselves by saying, we're not in America. But they did the same thing and have continued to do the same thing throughout the centuries. First of all, and please do make notes of this, when we understand the transatlantic slave trade and all the makeups of it, it actually affected two major kingdoms of Israel, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The first part of that nightmare was when those from Europe came over to the Americas and started to enslave the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom are the people who left their country to come to the Americas to serve the Most High God. Let's go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 13. We're going to begin reading at verse 40. Now, you're all familiar with this by now because we've read it a number of times. But let's see how we can contextualize it just a little bit.
In the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13 and verse 40, page 31. Those who are the 10 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osei, the king.
Now, this happened date-wise 722 BC. 722 BC, before Common Era. Let's go.
Whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land.
Read.
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes.
Notice what it said. They saw an opportunity when they were in slavery that they could be free to a certain degree. Now remember, in captivity, when a major power takes you into their land and takes you deep into their land, most times the people that they have captured and brought to those lands do not leave because they have traveled so far and they don't have the means by which to get back. They haven't got the supplies, they haven't got the finances, and they don't have the skill in terms of the direction because they're in a foreign land. But here is the matter. But they came together under a common consensus and they were agreed. Let us leave and go to a place where we can worship our God and keep his laws, statutes, and commandments.
God.
Now, with that thought in mind, the Most High God made a way for them to do that. When they didn't have supplies, he supplied it. When they didn't have means of transport, he supplied it. He supplied all of their needs because of the heart that they had initially. And isn't that just like many of us? We start off with this zeal to serve the Most High God with all of our hearts and with all of our soul. And then as time goes on, you wean off and you go back to the weak and the beggarly elements. But here it goes on and says, continue where you left off,
that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
But they never kept it in their own land. But now they got this new idea that we can go to another land and we'll be faithful.
Right.
Continue.
And they entered into Euphrates.
They entered into the Euphrates River. Go on.
By the narrow passage of the river.
Read.
For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till...
So what the Most High did was he made it possible that in an impossible path, he made it possible for them to go through in order to get to another place. He made all the conditions right. He kept the weather right. He kept the seas and the rivers calm so that they could pass over. They wouldn't lose any life. They wouldn't lose any victuals, but they were able to go through unscathed. But watch.
And held still the flood till they were passed over. For though that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
So to go through that country, they had a great journey ahead of them, and it took them over a year to go from the eastern shores over to the western shores. That was called, it's now called today the Americas. It was called Turtle Islands back in that time, but the scripture has a name for it. Go ahead and read.
Come. Of a year and a half, and the same region is called Ashereth.
So it was called Atherus. So this is the new area which today is called the Americas. Now, please do not confuse the Atherus that you read here with the Atherus in North Africa, because some say it was talking about there. No. The same way that you can have, many people have similar names, so does countries have similar names. So don't confuse that. And there are many who have an argument to say that wasn't what the scripture is saying. Let's not debate that. Let's understand clearly here that it is speaking about this newfound land. And to understand that, you have to know what the word means. Now, let's take it a step further. Now, we'll drop that now. Here is what we have to also take some understanding, is that once they got here, they were invaded by their enemies. And then that's the northern kingdom. Later, the southern kingdom, who were over in West Africa, were taken and brought as slaves over to the Americas as a means of cheap labor, but also to create confusion by the mixing of the different people, which they themselves, by the way, when they were invaded, did not know. You were only helping the situation because you were mixing the same people with the same people. They did not know that. And so this now brings us into the lesson that we're going to be dealing with today. Let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 13. Follow closely, please. Matthew chapter 13. And we're going to begin, if you please, at verse 24. Matthew 13 and verse 24. Begin reading, please.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field.
So it says, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven, the place where one day we shall live and reign. He says here that it is like a man who sows good seed.
God.
And good seed where?
In his field.
In his field. Now let's make a note of this. For those of you that are familiar with this text, great. For those of you that are not, the field here it is speaking about is Israel. Israel. The good seed is Israel. Let's read on.
Verse 25. But while men slept.
Hold it. What did it say?
But while men slept.
Men slept. Now you'll notice that there is, find me the 10 virgins, please. Now, you will notice that there is a concern here because it says whilst men slept. Now, this is a condition that has affected our people many, many times throughout the scriptures. Whilst men slept. Anyone has it? Just you got it? Go ahead.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 1.
Let's read.
Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins.
So here, let's hold that what you got. Go back and read verse 24 again.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven.
The kingdom of what?
The kingdom of heaven.
The kingdom of heaven. Read.
Is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field.
In his field. Now go back to where you were, Matthew 25.
Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins.
Unto what?
Unto 10 virgins.
Go on.
Which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom.
Went forth to meet the bridegroom. Hold that real quick. Go to 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 15. Just go there real quick. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15.
2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. It reads.
Now this is how to understand the scriptures. This is what we have to do. And I'm speaking to those who are yet to understand it. Let's read.
Study to show thyself approved.
To understand the scriptures, you must study. Read.
Unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
Rightly dividing the word of truth. Now let's go back to Matthew 25.
Matthew chapter 25, verse 1.
Read.
Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom.
Read.
And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish.
Read.
They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels.
Read.
With their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept.
There is the challenge that we face.
God.
That people are falling asleep, meaning they're going back into a state of reluctancy.
God.
Whilst the bridegroom tarried, they slumbered and slept. Read.
And at midnight.
At what?
At midnight.
Go on.
There was a cry made. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him.
Going out to meet him.
God.
Now, as we read on here, it speaks of an efficiency on 5 of their sides and the need to want to get help from the others. But read on. Let's read it.
Verse 8. And the foolish said unto the wise, give us your oil, for our lamps are gone out.
So whilst they fell asleep, they put themselves in a state where they were not active to be able to keep their lamps well oiled and well trimmed. And that is how some of our people have become.
Right.
We've fallen asleep. We have no oil. We're not trimming our lamps. We'll explain all of that in detail in a moment. And so as we become like that, we leave ourselves exposed. And you see, the reason why it uses the word lamps here to a certain degree, because if you don't have lamps, you can't see who's coming.
That's right.
And the enemy has a way of sneaking up on you and getting you, and you can't see who's coming, and therefore you become prey.
That's right.
Let's go back, if you please, to Matthew chapter 13. Let's go back there now. All right.
25.
Let's read verse 24. Yeah, 25, yes.
Come. Matthew chapter 13, verse 25. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares.
And did what?
And sowed tares.
And they sowed tears. They began to bring about confusion. Let's precept that. Let's go to Ezekiel 37. And let's read verse 1. Ezekiel 37 and verse 1.
Come.
Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 1. The hand of the Most High was upon me,
Read.
and carried me out in the spirit of the Most High,
Read.
and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones,
Go on.
and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry.
Very dry. Go on.
And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live?
In other words, can they wake up from their dead state? Go on.
And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest.
Thou what?
Thou knowest.
Hold that. Go to Revelations chapter 11 and 8. Come back. Revelations chapter 11, and let's read verse 8. Go ahead, sir.
Revelation chapter 11 and verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt.
So now you begin to see that it's telling you that the bodies that it's speaking about is Israel in their captivity and they're dead.
God.
Now, this is symbolic. Dead meaning they've got no connection with who they are. They've lost the virtue of any understanding. They've lost their heritage. They've lost everything. And the people are walking around over them and around them, get that. People are walking around them like they are nothing. And that's what you're seeing today.
That's right.
So the nightmare is that you lost your home, you lost who you are,
God.
you have no heritage, no remembrance of your language. And as far as culture is concerned, you've taken a whole nother culture and you call that culture you. And it's not you.
That's right.
Go ahead and read what you got.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage.
So it's telling you that you, even you, will discontinue. You had a heritage. You had something. But now you've discontinued from it because the best brainwashing has taken place with the Most High's people. Read, sir.
That I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies.
Hold it. It said what? I will cause you to do what?
I will cause thee to serve thine enemies.
So you now are going to serve with no argument the people that are your enemies. And did we not read that this morning in the book of Baruch, where it tells us very clearly in verse 17 of Baruch chapter 4, page 105, it says, in fact, go ahead and read verse 18, if you please.
Come. Baruch chapter 4 and verse 18.
Watch this.
Page 105. For he that brought thee plagues upon you will deliver you from the hands of your enemies.
So he is going to deliver us from the hands of our enemies. Jump to verse 21.
Verse 21. Be of good cheer.
So even though you're going to be in captivity, it said, be of good cheer. Go on.
O my children,
Read.
cry unto the Lord,
Make supplication. Go on.
and he shall deliver you from the power and hand of the enemies.
Jump to verse 26. Read.
Verse 26. My delicate ones have gone rough ways and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies.
See that? So now the scripture is telling you that look, but they're not my enemies. They don't treat me harm. I mean, I'll go where I want. I can do what I want. No, you've been conditioned several generations later that you don't even know you're among your enemies.
Come.
You don't know what an enemy is because you've been taught to love your enemies
Come.
better than you love your own.
That's true. True.
Is this not what we're experiencing?
Yes, sir.
You're quick to drop on the sword for your enemy than you will for your own people.
That's right.
You're quick to call your own people the N-word and you won't call your enemies anything. And have you noticed, and in case you think, oh, you're making this up, Pastor Tom, you're making it up. Have you not noticed, you'll talk loud about your own people derogatively, but then when you're talking about your enemy, you'll start to whisper. That shows you just how conditioned you are.
Come.
You're in your own house and you start speaking about the enemy and what do you know they are? You're in your own house.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's how well conditioned we are. Go ahead and finish what you want. Jeremiah.
Come. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. The latter clause. I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever.
Burn forever. And so now, back in Ezekiel 37, it tells us clearly there, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? Can these people live again? Is there any possibility that we can resuscitate them?
Come.
Is there any possibility that they can be the people that they once were? But then it goes on to say, read.
Verse 4, Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 4. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones.
Take the word of who Yahweh Shai is to these people and wake them up. Read on.
And say unto them, O ye dry bones,
Read.
hear the word of the Most High.
Hear the word of the Most High. Let's go back to Matthew. In fact, before we do that, go to Luke. Let's just run to Luke chapter 22 and verse 40. Luke chapter 22 and verse 40. Let's read.
The book of Luke, chapter 22 and verse 40. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation.
So he takes the disciples with him to the Garden of Gethsemane. And he says to them, listen, you need to pray. He's trying to teach them that there's a time coming that the people of the Most High God must learn to pray. Here's a problem with our people. We don't pray enough. And we make praying like it's a chore. Praying should be a natural thing.
That's right.
Driving in your car, pray. You get a moment. These days, it's not uncommon to look like you're talking to yourself because people think you're talking on the phone.
That's right.
So just open up your mouth and begin to just say, Father, I thank you, Abba, for all that you've done. We have to make praying more commonplace. Jump down, if you please, to verse 46.
Verse 46. And said unto them, why sleep ye?
See, there's that sleeping spirit coming over again. Because that's what happened in Ezekiel 37.
Con.
Go on.
Rise and pray,
Rise and pray. Read.
lest ye enter into temptation.
It becomes a place for the enemy to enter in. Hence it says, ye enter into temptation. It becomes a doorway for the enemy to use to get to you.
Con.
Are you seeing this carefully? All right. So it's important, the scriptures letting us know that. Now, in the Christian church, this is viewed in terms of what we're teaching at this point to be overly kind of political, because we're bringing history into it. You don't need to bring all that into it. Don't be talking about that's all done, that's all past. It cannot be done because you're still where you are. And you know what? When you look around the conditions, there's still people who are not being treated equally. And the truth is, there's no such thing as equality. Do you all believe in equality? Well, that's not what God says. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Let's just quickly go. We're going somewhere with this, but just hang with me. Go ahead.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6.
7 and 6, yes.
For thou art an holy people.
So it says, you are what?
For thou art an holy people.
You are a holy people. Go on.
Unto the Most High thy power.
Go on.
The Most High thy God have chosen thee.
So if he has chosen you, where is the equality? Because you'll have people say, we're all the same. We all should get along. Oh, okay. Get along, I'll work with you. But being the same, no, we can't. Because it says here, the Lord thy God has chosen thee, read,
to be a special people,
read,
unto himself,
unto himself, watch it now,
above all people.
Now, is that equality?
Nope.
If you're above someone, where's the equality?
God.
Go on.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
That are upon the face of the earth. Still stay there. Go to chapter 10 and verse 15. Let's see how equal he is. Go on.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 15.
And remember the key word. We're dealing with seed. Go on. Read.
Only the Most High had a delight in thy fathers.
Watch it. Read.
To love them.
To love them. So he says he loves them. Doesn't say he loves everybody. Oh, but he does. In John 3:16, he says, God so loved the world. No, you're misunderstanding. But let's finish read where we are. Read.
And he chose their seed.
And he chose what?
And he chose their seed.
Their seed, read.
After them.
After them, read.
Even you above all people, as it is this day.
As it is this day. Meaning it still remains the same this day. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. You're trying to change it because you're trying to bring other people in. He doesn't want other people in. Not according to this. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we now go back, we must remember that the scriptures has been given to us in terms of, and it gives us a historical pattern of the life of his chosen people. Matthew 13 and let me just quickly look at this. Yeah, Matthew 13 and 26. Yes. Let's go back. All right, let's read.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 26.
Read.
But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also.
Now, the word tears here, make a note in your scriptures. The word tears here refers to others. Others. Other nations, other people, etc. Okay? Hold where you are. Let's go to Psalms 83. Psalm 83. And let's begin reading, if you please, verse 2.
The book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 2.
Read.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
So it tells you that your enemies, even though you live with them, they hate you.
Right.
You're living among them, but they hate you.
God.
Oh, but my neighbor, he gets on with me 100%, and we're good pals. He's doing that just for publicity's sake. It's good imagery. It says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. Who can tell me, what is a tumult, please? Who can tell me that real quick? What is a tumult?
Is it like when they used to go to war, they used to have, they dig a moat or something around there?
No.
The trouble to make it.
No.
Trouble.
Tumult.
Oh, tumult. Trouble, not moat.
Tumult. What did you say? Uproar. Yes, indeed. Let's expand on that a little bit more. Anyone else? It's definitely an uproar. A tumult is an uproar. It's creating upheaval, confliction. That's what a tumult is. Making you feel uncomfortable. So it says your enemies are making an uproar. They're making you uncomfortable. What is an uproar? An uproar is seeing your brothers shot. An uproar is they go to prison for a traffic ticket and they die. Those are all uproars because it makes everyone feel uncomfortable because we know something in someone's agenda is going on here. All right, now let's jump down, if you please, to verse 6, because now we're going to see who is the head of all of this. We dealt with this last night. Go ahead.
Psalms chapter 83, verse 6. The tabernacles of Edom.
So Edom is at the top of the list. Now, who's the next individual groups of people who have us on their hit list? Go.
And the Ishmaelites.
Ishmaelites. The Arabs. They're the second. A lot of people who have treated us badly, going back to the sub-Saharan slave trade. And then, who comes next?
Of Moab.
Chinese. They're a mess. And then, who comes after that?
And the Hagarenes.
The Hagarenes, they are the Egyptians. Again, Hamites. So we see then that they are all, by the way, in the scriptures labeled in their positions of their hatred towards you. Edom hating you the most at the top. But no, we love Edom. So let's go back, if you please. Go back to Matthew chapter 13. First of all, let's read 26 one more time.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 26.
Read.
But when the blade was sprung up and brought fruit, and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field?
Did you not sow good seed? Is the seed not good? Go on.
From whence then hath it tares?
From whence then has it tares? Now, first of all, let's make a note of this. This is some of the characteristics of wheat. Wheat is a wholesome grain.
Okay.
It's good for you, pleasant. It helps a person to grow, helps a person to be strong. Wheat, by its nature, it has to be crushed in order to bring forth the powder for food. Wheat also grows in stages. It needs the chaff in order to protect it through its growing period. It has a milky-like substance in the early formation of it, and as it ripens, it absorbs the sunlight. Now, the reason why you've got to get that is because, again, bear in mind that the sunlight, you could refer it to being absorbing the things of Yahweh Shai, if you want to get deep. And as it absorbs more of the light of the sun, it matures. As you gain more of the knowledge of Yahweh Shai, you mature. You seeing that? Wheat, by the way, as it grows upright, its head stays upright until it reaches the stage where it is ready to be picked. And when it's ready to be picked, the head of the wheat bows itself down humbly. So the wheat is telling you when it is ready, when it is mature. And that's why the Most High chose wheat to liken it to the children of Israel.
That's right.
Because you give life, you give substance.
That's right.
Everything that's in the wheat is you. Hold that tied in with Luke 22 for me, please, and 31. Luke 22 and 31. Let's read.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 31. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat.
As what?
As wheat.
Now, why would Yahweh make that statement
God.
if all what was just stated to you was not true? The enemy wants to crush you because of how you are made up.
That's right.
But now, conversely, let's take a look at the characteristics of tears. Tears is dealing with the other nations. Tears is a degenerate kind of wheat. If you eat it, it's bitter. Unlike its predecessor, which is wheat, which is sweet. When it is fully ripened, it stands stiff. That's why when you see them both together, they're identical.
God.
The tears look just like the wheat. They stand upright. But how do you know the difference? Why? Just told you. The wheat will bow its head in readiness.
God.
The tear, on the other hand, won't bow its head. It's amazing that very plant life has an attitude. It will not bow its head. Let's pull some scripts to go with that. Deuteronomy 22 and 9. Deuteronomy 22 and 9.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22 and verse 9.
Read, sir.
Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with divers seeds.
So you can't sow your vineyard with diverse seed.
God.
Oh, there's another script that just jumped into my head. Read on, sir.
Come, lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown and the fruit of thy vineyard be devoured.
Do what?
Salaki, be defiled.
All right, hold that. We're going to finish that, but something jumped into my head. Go to Ecclesiastes chapter 26. Let's read verse 19.
Sirach, chapter 26, on page 86, verse 19. My son, keep the flower of thine age sound.
Watch it now, read.
And give not thy strength to strangers.
Now, what did we just read in Deuteronomy? What did it just say?
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9. Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with divers seeds.
Don't go mixing your seed.
Come.
All right. Let's go back here. We'll come back to that in a moment. Go on.
Sirach chapter 26, verse 19. My son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers.
Read.
When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession,
Watch it now, read.
through all the field, sow it with thine own
With
seed.
thine own seed. Go
Come.
on.
Trusting in the goodness of thy stock.
Read.
So thy race, which thou leavest, shall be magnified, having the confidence of their good descent.
Good descent. All right, drop that. Go to Jeremiah 17 and 4.
Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4.
We'll come back to Deuteronomy in a moment.
It reads, And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage
Read.
that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not.
Because what did you do? You went and mixed yourself with the other nations. Let's go back. All right, let's go back now. Deuteronomy. Yeah, where we were.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 9.
All right.
Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with divers seeds,
Read.
lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown, and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled.
Read on.
Thou shalt not plow with an ox and an ass together.
So you can't use two different laboring creatures. Can't use an ox. You cannot use an ass. Go on.
Thou shalt not wear a garment of divers sorts, as of woolen or linen together.
Notice you're not to wear different garments mixed up. You seen that? Go on.
Thou shalt not, thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thyself.
Right. That's speaking about tzitzits. All right. Okay. Drop that. Let's go from there, if you please, to 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. It's not a long lesson, so we'll be through shortly. Go ahead.
2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14.
Go on.
Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers.
Read that again.
Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers.
Go on.
For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness?
Read on.
And what communion have light with darkness?
So it's telling that you are light and others are darkness. Go on.
And what concord have the Messiah, and what concord hath the Mashiach with Belial? Or what part have he that believeth with an infidel?
Go on.
And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols?
Read.
For ye are the temple of the living God.
You are the temple of the living God. Read on.
As God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God.
Read.
And they shall be my people.
Read.
Wherefore, come out from among them.
Do what?
Come out from among them.
Read.
And be ye separate, saith the Lord.
Go on.
And touch not the unclean thing.
So they are unclean. The tears are unclean. Go on.
And I will receive you.
Read.
And I will, and will be a father unto you.
Read.
And ye shall be my sons and daughters.
Sons and daughters. Read.
Saith the Most High Almighty.
Says the Most High. Now, that should make it abundantly clear there, right? So let's go back to Matthew chapter 13. Let's read verse 27.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13, and verse 27. It reads, So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field?
Now, this you have to read very, very carefully, because we all read it, but we miss it because there's some nuggets in it. But as I always say to the brethren, that if you read too quickly, you miss what it's trying to convey. So the servant of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in your field? From whence then hath it tears? Because how are you sowing good seed, and all of a sudden now you've got some strangers turning up? Doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, to look at the history of this, we have to go back. Make this note of 1441 to 1969. Now, we as a people were stolen from Cape Verde, or Verde, Verde, by Prince Henry of Portugal. He is the one that started this mess. He's the nucleus. Now, he's not the only one, but he's the one who just got the fire going. And what did the Most High do? From 1441, he waited all the way up to 1969 to then wake up some brothers to the truth. And they began to wake up the other brothers by saying, do you know who you are according to the scriptures? Do you know who you are? Now, imagine back in 1969, going up to a brother and saying, do you know who you are according to the scriptures? He's looking at me, what are you talking about? Because remember, your mentality is, the only people I've seen in my Bible look like the people that I live with. So it means then that your mindset then was the people who were of the scriptures, because, and remember, Edom had been extremely careful. That's right. Because they knew that in order to control the narrative, they had to control the printing press. That's right. And the only way to do it was to own all of media. And to own all of media means we own the newspapers, we own the printing presses, we own the bookstores, we own the television, we own the radio rights, everything. Are you seeing how strategic this man has been? That's right. This devil knew if we don't centralize ourselves where we control the narrative, then these people are going to wake up slowly. Now, the reasons why, and let me back up a little bit. You know why you can't hypnotize someone one time and leave it there? Because the brain is designed to reboot itself and go back to the foundation of the information that is coded with. In other words, there's a code in you, set in you by the Most High God. And even though you've been brainwashed and you have been turned around and your language has changed and all of the rest that I just quoted, the fact is that if we don't keep on reintroducing new stimuli, you will begin to wake up. out of the matrix. If we don't somehow keep you docile, get you in sports, you're Superman on the courts, you're Superman on the field, get you out there, distract you from who you are, and use you for entertainment, and pay you big money, that the money you have looks more important and more delectable than the fact of who you are is.
That's right.
I'm concerned about who I am. I'm making $100 million. I'm good. This is heaven to me. That's what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. It's about locking you out. And that's why every time that, and if you watch carefully, every now and then when they feel like it's wearing off, a certain movie comes out. You're not hearing what I'm saying. Every time something seems, they bring something up that's, or create some kind of news media that will change your direction. Because the purpose is to keep you dumbed down. So here, when we look at this now, isn't it amazing? It's just amazing. And go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, because I think we need to prove the point even more. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, and begin reading for me from verse 11.
Okay. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1 and verse 11. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come.
So he's telling you here that your mind is going to be locked out of remembering. Go on.
With those that shall come after.
With those shall come after you. Isn't that amazing? Jump down to verse 15.
Verse 15. That which is crooked cannot be made straight.
So once a thing has been broken or made crooked, the only person who has the power to bring you back from the crookedness that you're now in is the one who put you in that thing in the first place.
That's right.
Well, read for me, sir.
And that which is wanting cannot be numbered.
Cannot be numbered. Jump to chapter 7 and verse 13. 7 and 13.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 13. Consider the work of God, for who can make that straight?
So you have to consider the work of the Most High God, because he's the one who's made all things. And then he says what?
Who can make that straight?
Read.
Which he have made crooked.
Which he has made crooked. Which he has made crooked. Go to Jude for me. Just run to Jude real quick. I think you know what I want. Jude. And verse 5. We're just going to read the first clause.
The book of Jude, verse 5. I will therefore put you in remembrance.
So he's going to bring you back into remembrance. So no matter how they try to dumb you down and lock your memory out, he says, I'm going to put you in remembrance. And watch what he goes on to say, just the first clause, go on.
Though ye once knew this.
Though you once knew this. You once knew it. You once knew this. You can't make it any plainer than that, Doctor. No. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 13. Now watch this now.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 13,
verse 27. Thank you, sir.
And verse 27. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then have it tares?
So this now is dealing with the servants who have now, who are asleep, and refers to a dead state. Now, Go to Matthew chapter 7 and 21 for me, real quick. Because this is really a double entendre when we read that, but go ahead and read.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 7 and verse 27. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew.
And the wind did what?
And the winds blew,
Go on.
and beat upon that house,
Go on.
and it fell, and great was the fall of it.
Go on.
And it came to pass, when Yahushua had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine.
Let's notice. Yahweh's doctrine is different from all the doctrine that you've heard from all these so-called pastors who are saying what they're saying. Do you know that everything that's in their mouth to say has been designed to keep you asleep? So not only the entertainment world, but even church has been designed to keep you asleep. And the only time that gets you happy is to, let's get clapping our hands and jump and shout and all of that. The word itself is meant to get you happy first. Everything else is an addition. But read on.
Verse 29. For he taught them as one having authority.
One having authority. Read.
And not as the scribes.
And not like the scribes. Not like the scribes that have been bamboozling the people for years. Are you with me so far? We good? All right. Now, is there any question? Let me just give you a quick moment here because it's kind of heavy hitting and I want to not miss out on anything because I'm going to go a little bit deeper before we finish up here. All right. Any questions from anyone so far? Now, since you have none, let me say this. Remember what I said to you before in the beginning, that the tears and the wheat, they look alike, right? Yeah. So if the tears and the wheat look alike, and the only way you know the difference is that when they reach maturity, one hangs its head, right? Now, you've got to recognize this as well, that there are many people who are going to be in this truth, who are going to be tears. Oh, see, that kind of hit you a little bit. Because not everyone who comes into this truth is going to be wheat. Because they look the same. How are you going to be able to know the difference between those who are Negro, Jake, and those who are Negro, Edom? How are you going to know the difference? You can't know the difference. So it means then that the Most High is one who's going to have to do the what?
Separation.
The separating in that time. All right. Let's go a little bit further. Can we please? Let's read 27 again, then we'll move forward.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 27.
Read.
So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field?
Good.
From whence then have it tares? He said unto them, An enemy have done this.
And that's the nations. The enemy is the nations. Go on.
The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them.
You see why you can't separate. Remember, we've had some folk who turn around and say, well, I'm not going to that church because they've got all manner of people there. Not understanding you don't have the power to do it. We just read in Ecclesiastes, who can make straight that which the Most High has made crooked? Only he has the power to straighten things out. Come on. Let's read.
Verse 30. Let both grow together.
Hold it. Read that again.
Let both grow together.
Read.
Until the harvest.
Until the harvest. Now the harvest, make a note of this because you'll miss it. The harvest that is speaking about here is the end of the world.
That's right.
The harvest is the end of the world. Now, over in the UK, I can't use here because, unfortunately, people over here who happen to be Negroid and look white, they hide it. They don't want nobody to know. But over in the UK, there are guys who walk about who look like Edom, but they're Negro, and they'll tell you, "No, I'm not white." Now you're looking at them, you see the blue eyes, and you say, "No, don't tell me that." No, I'm not, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you, "I am a black man," and that looks odd. And I hope one of these days you experience that. It's an odd thing, but we can't make the differentiation by looks. We've got to get out of that mentality. Because looks alone is not going to be enough for you to know the difference between who is and who isn't.
Right.
Are we clear on that, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. Because there are some people who will come, they will look like the other nations, but in fact, they are 100% Negro because they are of their father. Go to Numbers chapter 1 and 18. Let's go there, please.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 18.
Read.
And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families.
After their families.
By the house of their father.
See, it's done by the house of your father, not by the mother. That's why those who are over in Jerusalem now, calling themselves Jews, they go by the system of the mother, not the father. And that's done because mothers don't have seeds. Only men have seed. And you just read it here according to the scripture. It was their pedigree of their father's family. Now, to drive the nail home on that, go to Ezra chapter 2 and 59. Now, that's a precept. You need to hold that one in there tight because that's that's Ezra as opposed to Ezra's.
It's the book of Ezra, chapter 2 and verse 59.
Go on.
And these were they which went up to Telmelach, and these were they which went up from Telmelach, Telharsa, Cherub, Adon, and Immer. But they could not show their father's house.
Hold it. They could what?
But they could not show their father's house.
They could not show their father's house. They could not do it. Go on.
And their seed, whether they were of Israel.
Whether they were of Israel. You see that? So it shows that proves that it has to be of the father's house.
Come.
That's making sense to you so far? All right. Let's get back to Matthew. Let's read.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 31, verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares.
First the tears. Watch this now. Go on.
And bind them in bundles.
And do what?
And bind them in bundles.
Bind them in bundles. Go on.
To burn them.
To what?
To burn them.
To burn them. That's what's going to happen to the tears in that day. They're going to be put together, tied up. And by the way, in case anyone's having a problem with this is happening in the kingdom. So remember, all that you've been taught, this celestial view of everyone floating around, that's not going to be the case. Because there will be order here. And Yahweh shall say, bind them up, take them to that fire pit and drop them in there. Go on.
But gather the wheat into my barn.
Gather the wheat into my barn. They're the ones that's going to be in the kingdom.
That's right.
Go on?
Come on.
All right. Let's go to Revelation chapter 14 and 13. Revelations chapter 14 and 13. Let's read.
The book of Revelation, chapter 14 and verse 13.
Read.
And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me,
Read.
Right blessed are the dead, which die in the Lord, from henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors,
Read.
and their works do follow them.
Read.
And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
That's the fathership. Go on.
And another angel came out of the temple.
Came out of the temple, showing you that there is a temple in heaven as there is a temple on earth. That's why when we pray the prayer, as it is in heaven, so it is on the earth. Follow? Go on.
Crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle, and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth
For the harvest of what?
For the harvest of the earth is ripe.
Is what?
Is ripe.
Is ripe. Go on.
Verse 16. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in the sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped.
Now this is Michael. Go on.
And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle.
Go on.
And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe.
Go on.
And the angel thrust in his sickle unto the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress
Go on.
of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city.
No, but by the way, that's the other nations that are going to go through that. Go on.
And blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horse bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs.
Now, that 1,600 furlongs, you'll read it in the scriptures many different times, and people like to equate that to the height and breadth and length of the different areas and so on. But here it is. This is dealing primarily with the 2/3, because it's really counting out the length of the city, and 2/3 of that city is going to be destroyed, meaning a type of the 2/3 of Israel to be destroyed. Khan? Let's give you a precept to go with it. I may not have time to go into it because I want to finish up in a moment. Joel chapter 3 and 12. Joel chapter 3 and 12. Let's hit that.
The book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 12. Let the heathen be awakened.
Let what?
Let the heathen be awakened.
Go on.
And come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Read.
For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
Go on.
Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe.
You see the correlation between the two?
Okay.
Let's read just a little bit more.
Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for the wickedness is great.
For the wickedness is great. Go on.
Verse 14. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Most High is near in the valley of decision.
Valley of decision. All right, let's go back. When you're through. Matthew chapter 13.
Come.
Let's for time goes, jump to 36.
Come. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 36.
Read.
Then Yahushua sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field.
Read.
He answered and said unto them.
Now, this is where you've read it before and you've missed it. So, we're going to read it real slow and see if you get it. Read.
He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
Stop. What does it mean? We've been dealing with it all the way through up to this point. What does it mean?
If you stay within your
Don't guess it. So, what does it mean? Read it again, officer.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 37. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
So he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
Mhm.
Is the Son of Man. He that sows the seed is the Son of Man. He that sows the seed is the Son of Man. Now, all right, look at it like this, Dusters. Two ways you can only see this. Only two. When you speak about sowing a seed, what are the two ways? Dusters, tell me. Quick. Yes, how? One in the ground, that's one. What's the other? Quick. All right, go ahead, Wendell.
In the womb.
In the womb. There's the only two ways. Gone?
Gone.
So if that's the only two ways, read it again. Verse
Matthew
37.
chapter 13 and verse 37. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth good seed is the Son of Man.
So, what is it referring to?
Israel.
It is indirectly, but what is it referring to? It's clear. He. Let's say again. Yes, Yahushua. Yahushua what? Sowing the seed. How?
Word only to us.
What did you say? In the womb. How did he do it though? No. I thought I was going to jump up the seat and have a ticker tape parade. I thought you were going to hit it for me. So.
The field is Israel though.
Huh?
The field is Israel.
The,
So if the seed in Israel.
Well, notice, first of all, let's stick just with verse 37 first, because the 38 takes you further afield. It said, He answered and said unto them, look, read 36 again.
Come. Matthew chapter 13, verse 36. Then Yahushua sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his...
So remember, it's a colon there. So
Come.
he was tired now. He taught and he was now tired. So he turned around and he said, all right, I'm done. I've taught you enough. Need to get some rest. So now he sends them away. Then his disciples say, this is an opportunity. I need to ask him this question. I just need to ask him this question. So his disciples came unto him and they said, read, declare
unto us the parable of the tares of the field.
The field.
Come.
Right. I see your hand window, but I don't want to come to you just yet. I'm going to keep you just one moment. I hope you got it, but I'm going to keep you in a moment. So then he says,
He answered and said unto them,
He that
He that soweth the good seed
So he said, he that soweth the good seed
is the Son of
is
Man.
the Son of Man. So here he's speaking of himself.
Cool. Yes.
So how did he sow good seed?
Word.
Huh? No, you said Adam?
The word.
Through Jacob.
Not the word, doctor. No. So you're good, but you're not good. You see what I'm saying? You're good, but you're not good. And I'm glad you're talking it out, because that's how you get it. Keeping it in, it don't work that way. It doesn't. It's like when I'm working at a mathematical problem, I've got to keep on writing it out to see what did I work it out, to see where I'm coming from, and then backtrack. All right. So, yes, sir.
When he was Isaac.
When he was what?
Isaac.
Well done. Well done. That's deep. Because here, read it again.
Come, Matthew chapter 13, verse 37. And he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
So when he was Isaac, he sowed the seed. Yeah, because he knew in his spirit who he was back then.
Come.
And who did he sow it to? Rebecca. I keep telling you, you mustn't talk without knowing what you're going to say. Go on, sir.
See, remember, he said when he came and he met with
Find the script.
okay, back in Genesis.
Yeah, back in Genesis. Find the script. Find the script. Because you see, I don't mind you telling me, but if you tell me and you can't back it up, it's pointless. So let's back it up. All right. Go ahead, sir. Genesis.
No, I'm still trying to. I know where it is. I'm just taking a minute.
Let me get it for you. Come on. There we go.
18.
Go ahead. Let's read. 18 and 9.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 18 and verse 9. And they said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son.
So he said he's going to return. He's going to return. He said, certainly I will return unto thee according to the time of life. So he was going to return. And he was going to become Isaac.
Good.
And then Isaac now was going to do this in verse 25. 25 and verse 19.
Genesis chapter 25, verse 19. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Most High for his wife, because he was barren, and the Most High was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived.
So his wife conceived. Go on.
And the children struggled together within her.
So the children struggled together in her. Go on.
And she said, If it be so, why am I thus?
Read.
And she went to inquire of the Most High.
Read.
And the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
Now that's impossible.
Right.
2 nations can't be in the womb of a woman by one man. You can only get 2 nations by having 2 different fathers. Same woman, just 2 different fathers. That's how you have 2 nations. Because one woman, she has a baby for this man, and then another man comes and has baby for her. Those are 2 nations, 2 different men. Can't? But one man now, 2 different nations from one seed, it's impossible. And plus, by the way, they were identical twins. Some say they were paternal, but watch what it says. It says here, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner, meaning different, people shall be separated from thy bowels. Are you with me so far? So when we go back now to Matthew, so he said, this is what he says in verse 37. He said, and he answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. So he's saying that I did it when I was Isaac. See, that's heavy. I know it's heavy. It's flying over some people's head. Even some people online are going, what? But then when we read verse 38, watch what it says. Read.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 38.
Read.
The field is the world.
The field is the world. Go on.
The good seed are the children of the kingdom.
The children of the kingdom.
But the tares are the children of the wicked one.
The children of the wicked one. And that wicked one is Edom. Hence Esau.
Come.
You got that? Matthew chapter 8 and 11. Run there for me, please.
Matthew chapter 8 and verse 11.
Go ahead.
And I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But
Go on.
the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into utter darkness.
Hold on, you read that a little bit wrong.
Okay.
Go back and read it again.
Matthew chapter 8 and verse 12. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into utter darkness.
Mm-hmm.
There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Come. All right. Make sense to you so far? All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 10. Because we need that's the key word, because it says he shall see his seed. Right, so let's read Isaiah chapter 53 and 10.
Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 10.
Remember, the key word is he shall see his seed. That's what we're reading now in verse 30, chapter 13 of Matthew, verse 37. Now read in Isaiah. Go on.
Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 10. Yet it pleased the Most High to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days.
See that? He shall see his seed. That's powerful right
Come.
there. You don't make a note of that, you're in trouble. All right, any questions before I go forward? Any questions? Go ahead.
Would you go over that again from Matthew 13:37, Matthew 8:11, and Isaiah, please?
I'm sorry, second.
Would you repeat those 3? Do you mind going over those again?
Which is that?
Matthew 13:37,
13:37.
8 and 11, and then 53:10.
Right, so Matthew 13:37, and then you wanted what else? Matthew 8 and 11. Okay, let's go back to Matthew 13 and 37 first. Let's read it.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 37. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man.
So the good seed had to come from the loins of Isaac. Isaac was indeed one of the regenerated figures that Yahushua came in, because remember, he was also the lamb that was going to be slain by his father as a sacrifice. Isaac, who was going to be slain as a lamb now, was the one that was the chosen of the Most High God. He was the promise. That's why when you read later on where Isaac has the two children, which was Jacob and Esau, Isaac has it, right? In that, you have to tie that into Romans chapter 9 and read verse 4, because it shows you that all these promises that's in that verse 4 is pursuant only to the good seed, and the good seed is Israel. Go ahead and read it, sir.
It's the book of Romans, chapter 9 and verse 4.
Read.
Who are Israelites?
See, what Israelites? Go on.
To whom pertaineth?
Who what?
To whom pertaineth?
So that word pertaineth means to whom all these things belong to and are for. Go on.
The adoption.
The adoption. Go on.
And the glory.
Glory. Go on.
And the covenants.
Covenants, meaning all the laws. Go on.
And the giving of the law.
Given of the law was given to them, no one else. Go on.
And the service of God.
Service of God, meaning all of the positions like prophets and apostles and all of those things. It's only to the children of the promise, not to the other nations. So when you hear these other nations turn around and saying, oh, well, I'm a prophet, and I'm looking at you, and I know you're not of the bloodline. You're not. You're a false prophet. That's why the scripture speaks about false prophets. Go on.
And the promises.
And the promises. And they say, well, we're part of the promise because we are of Abraham's seed also. Yes, you are. But read what it says, verse 6. Go on.
Romans chapter 9 verse 6. Not as though the word of God have taken none effect.
Read.
For they are not all Israel.
See? Even though you have come from Abraham, you're still not Israel. Go on.
Which are of Israel.
Which are of Israel. Go on.
Neither, because they are the seed of Abraham.
And just because you're the seed of Abraham doesn't mean, go on.
Are they all children? But in Isaac.
But now it is in Isaac that what?
Shall thy seed be called.
Shall the seed be called.
That's right.
Go on.
That is, they which are the children of the flesh.
They are which are the children of the flesh are who go?
These are not the children of God.
They're not the children of God, meaning that Abraham had some sex with Hagar, and all of this business produced Ishmael.
God.
Ishmael is the son of Abraham, but he is not. He may be a Hebrew, but he is not an Israelite, because
right.
the Israelite comes from Jacob, who comes through Isaac.
That's right.
Read on.
But the children of the promise.
But the children of the promise, who
are counted for the seed.
They're the ones counted as the seed. That's why that word seed, you cannot look at it lightly. You have to see it for what it is. Seed is, in the scriptures, it gives you two symbolisms of it. One, seed, you put in the field. Seed that a man puts in the womb of a woman. Those are the only two. And if you only think that way, you'll be on the right track. Trying to get all spiritual, which is what some of the churches try to make you, you miss it. Because, and I'll go too far. Go ahead.
This is verse 9. For this is the word of promise.
But this is the word of promise. Go on.
At this time, will I come, and Sarah shall have a son.
And Sarah shall have a son. Go on.
And not only this, but and not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one.
So it's showing you that the situation happened miraculously by the will of the Most High God, both with Abraham's wife, Sarah, as well as with Rebekah, Isaac's wife.
Come.
Why is that so important? Because it tells you clearly that Abraham was barren. He was barren. It tells you that. So, and why is that so important? He had to have enough faith to continue to keep on having sex with his wife, to believe that seed was going to come, even though he was impotent.
Come.
Why would you bother to keep on having sex, believing you're going to have a child if you know nothing's going to be produced? You've got to do the action for the Most High to see that you are faithful to continue to do, because he will bless you in the deed of your action.
Come.
That's why don't tell me you're going to be blessed and you're not doing anything. Oh, well, I know I'm going to walk into the kingdom. And you done no works? Oh, really? So you can make it into the kingdom? You haven't done one stitch of works? You have to do some works. Part of the works here was that Abraham had to continue to have sex with his wife. That's why it's not taught in the Christian church, because they are afraid to use the word sex openly. Because they treat sex like it's a bad thing. It's poison. It isn't.
That's right.
You all do it.
Nope.
You're still walking around, right?
That's
And you still have a smile on your face when you're done.
right.
So it can't be as bad as you're making it to be. The church has made it, has demonized it. And that goes all the way back to the 14th and 13th century. The church, the Roman Catholic Church, made a mess of it and a mockery of everything. Go ahead, sir, your point.
And that's why Sarah said, shall I have pleasure in my Lord also?
Correct. She said, would I have pleasure with my Lord also? At my age. All right, did you finish it?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now we've done that. Let's go to the second part, because you wanted to understand 13 and 37. What was the second part? Matthew 8. Go ahead.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 8 and verse 11.
Read.
And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and
So what verse? I'm sorry.
Matthew chapter 8, verse 11.
Yes, that's right. Go on.
And shall sit down with Abraham.
Before you do that, jump back up to verse 10
Come.
and read from 10. Come on down.
Matthew chapter 8, verse 10. When Yahushua heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel.
Watch it now. Now follow carefully, because this is answering the second part of your question. Go on.
And I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven.
In the kingdom of heaven. In the heaven that will be ours on earth. Watch this now. Verse 12. Read.
But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into utter darkness.
Right now, remember, there's going to be wheat and tears.
Come.
And even when they come to the kingdom, the difference will be made between the two. And those who are not will be bound up. And that's what it said. And this is where people miss it, because they think, oh, but it's in the kingdom. See? And they try to make it that in the kingdom people are going to be, anyway, those are ignorant individuals. But it said, but the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, how do we make sense of that? It's easy, because when you jump to Matthew chapter 13 and verse 38, watch what it says.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 38. The field is the world.
The field is the world. Go on.
The good seed are
The what?
the good seed are the children of the kingdom.
The children of the kingdom. These are the children of the kingdom that is speaking about in Matthew chapter 8 and 11.
Come.
Now, how are they going to come? They're going because you see, all of them are going to come back. And it tells you who the ones are going to come back. It says Isaac, Abraham, Jacob. They're all going to come back. They're all going to be in the kingdom. Are you seeing that? They're all going to be there. And again, we all are going to be there if we hold fast and we continue in this truth. Because sadly, some of us won't, because we won't continue in the truth. Can't? All right. So that's really what that part's all about there. But what you are going to, and I hope that has answered to some degree, but it needs to, there's a couple more things that I would like to say, but really I don't want to say it because it'll take us into another area, and I don't really want to go there just yet. But now watch this. Here we are. In 38, right, let's read that again, and then read that through to verse 39, please.
Come. Matthew chapter 13, verse 38. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom.
So the children of the kingdom are the good seed. And those who are of the kingdom are going to be those who are of the elect. And the elect will bring back the 2/3. The elect will bring back the 2/3. Because all of our people are not going to just come back like that. Now, some of our people are going to be resurrected, and let me tell you why. Daniel, what we were last night. Some are going to come back to everlasting destruction. Most High will wake them up for them to be blown to smithereens. Because some of them thought that they escaped. You see, they thought, you got what?
Yeah, do you want to start from the top? Verse 2.
What
Daniel 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, start from the top. Yes, sir.
Come. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 12 and verse 1. At that time shall Mishael stand up, and great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble.
Time of trouble, which is, we're heading that way, go on.
Such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time.
Read.
And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.
Written in the book of life, meaning those that were part of the elect. Go on.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake.
Now it's showing you that there are some who were sleeping in the grave are going to be woken up because they thought they escaped it. They thought, well, nothing happened to me. And I haven't come back. I haven't come back to serve my sentence on the earth under the sun, as the scripture says. But the Most High hasn't forgotten you. And so it says, read that part again, many.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake.
Shall awake. Watch it, go on.
Some to everlasting life.
Now it says, some to everlasting life. There are those who are going to wake up and they'll have their new bodies and they will be ready to be with the Most High. They will wake up and go with him into the chariots. Go on.
And some to shame.
And some to shame, meaning they are going to be destroyed. Because when they wake up and they think everything's going to be cool, now all of a sudden they're seeing nuclear missiles blowing up all around them. And then they're going to be destroyed because the scripture says that they will be destroyed whilst their tongue and their eyes is still in their head. They will be consumed. Yes. Why is that so important? Because you thought you escaped it, but you're going to feel it in the worst way. You cannot fool with the Most High. You cannot fool with him. The everlasting God doesn't forget anything. Scripture says he doesn't forget your labor of love. If he doesn't forget your labor of love, do you think he's going to forget your evil? No. See that? All right. Did you finish it?
And everlasting contempt.
Everlasting contempt. And those individuals, once they've been destroyed, will they make it into the kingdom? Yes. How are they going to make it into the kingdom? They're going to be born through the 144 and the elect. But in the kingdom, they're going to be called the least. You know what scripture I want for that one? Matthew chapter 5.
The book of Matthew, chapter 5 and verse 19. Whosoever, therefore, shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so.
Now remember, you teach by your actions. If you're not wearing, doing, or acting the way you're supposed to act and do and wear, you're teaching people.
That's right.
If I don't wear a beard, I'm teaching you that's all right not to have a beard when it's not.
That's right.
If I don't wear fringes, I'm teaching people you don't have to wear fringes. So your actions teaches people. So you have to be careful. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're teaching others. And that's why they don't know who you are. By the mere fact that you have a fringe on the items that you wear, and you've got a beard on your face. Now, obviously, everybody's now, men now, are all judging a beard. But some of them, they're styling with it. They'll have a goatee and think, oh, I look cute with a goatee, so I'll keep the goatee. I shave off the rest. You've broken the law. Because he says you don't touch the corners of your beard. So if you have a beard, you have a complete beard. Oh, I'm just going to line it up. You don't line it up either. And how do you know when someone's lined up their beard? You don't see those extra hair lines just growing above your hairline. If you've got none, you razoring that thing. You're teaching men. You have to leave it the way it is. Because it's a sign of your obedience on the men. On the women, there are things that you do that show as a sign. That's why when people see you, they'll turn and say, are you blah, blah, blah? And you say, yes, I am. Because it's a witness. Got nothing to show, got no witness. And if there's no witness, then you're not an example. Your actions is not helping to wake someone up. And how do they learn? Because once they come into the truth now, they operate because they remembered how you were, and how you were helped them to become who they are. Make sense? Weeds and the tears. So the least in the kingdom, it says, so it says there, so whosoever therefore
shall break one of these least commandments and teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
We're going to be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
Great meaning in the kingdom, we're not all going to be the same. That's why in Christianity they teach us we're all going to be the same in heaven. Blah, blah. No, you're not. There's going to be levels in the kingdom. Some are going to be in a high position, the 144s, and all the apostles, the disciples of the Most High, the 144s, and then it comes down to the elect, etc., etc. And even in the elect, there's going to be different positions of hierarchy. And then after the elect, then the rest, the 2/3, and in that is going to be where the shame will be, because you will know, because they will have authority and powers that you don't have and can never have. And you will never have it. You say, oh, what? So I can't rise up in no. You do everything now to make your election sure. Your whole purpose on this earth, and that's why people would rather suffer foolishly because of their pride. Are you with me so far?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions before we finish? All right. Make a mental note of this, please. Good seed is the children of the kingdom. The tears are the children of the wicked one. He came in whilst everyone was sleeping. When were we sleeping? When we were in Astaroth. They came with their ships. We were asleep because we left our traditions. And when our people were down in South America, who were Aztecs, Incas, they were killing and doing blood sacrifices, breaking the law. In sleep. We were in a sleep state, so to speak. They came in and killed us, enslaved us, chained us, and kept us in that state until we lost our way completely. Remember, we lost our way before, but we lost our way even further through our enemies. So whilst we slept, we became destitute, and they took advantage of us. Next point, the enemy is the devil, and the devil is Edom. It is Edom. That's what the Bible says. Read the book of Revelations. Revelations chapter 2 and 9 and 3 and 9. The conquering of the Americas was done by the enemy. The transatlantic slave was done by the enemy. The rape, robbery, and pillaging of our men and women. Because remember, they didn't just rape the men, the women, they raped the men too. They are naturally homosexual. They have a natural homosexual tendency. They put that spirit on us. And that's why generations later, our men have homosexual tendency. You'll see a big, strong looking, burly black man, and then he opens up his mouth, he sounds like a girl. You'll see him with a beard and everything. You wait till we get our screen up, and I'll show you some pictures of some men. I mean, they look manly, man. And then when you drop from the head down, you see them wearing tank tops and all manner of stuff that I don't even want to talk about.
Strange appearance.
Yeah, can't. I get real disappointed when I see men act like women. Because, anyway, finally, this is what you have to do. Now, and for those of you that have a problem saying, well, which nation is the devil? When we call Edom the devil, we are calling them according to their own books. If you go online and you download or you get the word lexicon, which is like a dictionary, lexicon, Lexicon, and you type in the word devil, it tells you who the devil is. It tells you, it doesn't say that the devil's a spiritual thing, it tells you the devil is a man. Their books tell you that. And in fact, it says the word devil is a metaphor for a man. So when we call Esau the devil, we're calling him the devil because that's what their own books say, and that's what it is according to the scriptures. Now, I hope many of you online have been patient enough to come through this teaching. I hope it's been a blessing to you. I know it's been a little bit heavy. Had some very heavy parts in it, but I hope that you will go back over the teaching and continue to rework that teaching, that word in your mind, in your head. Scripture says we open with it, study to show thyself approved. Workman need not be ashamed. Rightly, there is a right and there is a wrong way. So it says rightly dividing the word of truth. I'm going to encourage all of you who listen to this teaching, if you do like what you've heard today on this channel, please do like us, subscribe, and I dare you, I double dog dare you. Why don't you tell your friends and your neighbors and those that you work with about this type of teaching, and repost it. I'm going to dare you to help us reach 10,000 viewership. 10,000. 10,000 viewership. I'm asking you to help me to reach 10,000 of our people, or whoever it is, because we don't know who it is, but 10,000 people who will receive this truth and by the will of the Most High will be awoken to who they are. So help me to do that. I hope you're saying Khan in Hebrew, or yes. And with that, again, thank all of you who have been kind enough to continue to contribute to this ministry. Whatever it is that you send, whatever it is that you give, we appreciate it because every little helps. And we hope that when you're able to be in the Houston area, just give us a call. Our number's on the website. And certainly if you don't have a ride, we'll come and get you. You can be a part of the family for the day. We'll feed you, we'll water you, and we'll make sure that you leave here as you came. So on the behalf of Officer Dwayne and myself, we say, Barakatah Yahweh, Yahweh Ba'ashiem Yahweh Shai, Salah.